Hey everyone, I'm Karnik. Welcome back to Star Wars Armada Explained. We're going to look at the objective card opening salvo today. This card is a red objective card. In terms of how it plays, it is mostly it's straightforward. There are just, again, some little things that people need to be aware of when playing with this objective. Again, I'm going to make sure I'm breaking it down, explaining it all to you guys. So this card does have one clarification I'm going to read after I read this card. Excuse me, I had a hiccup. Alright, so setup. After deploying fleets, assign one objective token to each ship. That's simple enough. So when does this card trigger? After fleets are deployed. Meaning that if you have ships in hyperspace, like with Admiral Radis for the Rebels, he can tuck a ship away in hyperspace, and if he's got profundity, he can tuck another small ship inside of that. So essentially, any ships not present on the board table after deployment, each ship gets an objective token. That's for both players. Special rule: the first time a ship performs an attack against another ship, discard the attacker's objective token. If the attacker belongs to the first player, he adds 2 red die to the attack pool. If the attacker belongs to the second player, he adds 2 die, each of any color, to the attack pool. End of game. Each player increases his final score by half of the fleet point cost of each enemy ship in the play area that has at least one damage card rounded up. Now let's read the clarification. It states, the die added by this card effect are added to the attack pool after the attack pool is rolled. The second player's added die can be of any color regardless of the range of the attack. A ship fleet points cost includes the cost of all upgrade cards equipped to that ship. So, how do we break this objective down? Let's start with setup. So after all the ships are deployed, we're going to say that the Rebel player is second player. He's got the 2 CR90s and 2 Hammerheads. The first player is the Imperial player. He's got an Imperial Star Destroyer and 2 Archidans. So as soon as after deployment is done, you put an objective token on every single ship that's in the play area. Then, whenever a ship is attacking, in this example, we're going to say that this CR90 is attacking this Archidans. So normally, if this was a CR90A, it would throw 2 red dice out the front. So how would you do this objective? You roll your initial attack pool, because again, for the CR90A, it's 2 reds and 1 blue out the front. In order to make this attack, he's only in the red range band out the front. He is in line of sight, front to front. And again, when doing your measurement, make sure, again, you're measuring from cardboard to cardboard. When making any sort of attack, which we are, we see we are in range, we're in line of sight, there are no obstructions. We roll our initial attack pool of 2 red die. And boy, that's an awful, awful roll to start with. Now, with the Rebels being second player, they have the choice of adding 2 additional die to that initial attack pool of any color they want. So this CR90A, he could roll 2 black die if he wanted, or 2 blue, or 2 additional red, or any combination thereof. That's what second player can do. Okay, and then if this Corvette had any other ways to manipulate or change dice around, he could then do that. But now let's turn this red die roll, which would have been no damage, into, hey, you can accuracy that Archidans evade, and now you can deal 2 damage to it still. And imagine if you had rolled another damage or a hit crit. You could have pumped a lot of damage in straight off the bat. And that is how opening salvo works for the second player. What about the first player? Again, we're going to say that this Archidans, being a first player, if he can shoots 1 red die out the front at long range. So if you make your initial attack pool roll, And then again, after you make that initial roll, then you add, in this case, the first player doesn't get a choice in color of die. He only gets 2 red die, period. And he makes that roll. Oops, and that should, so he would have rolled 2 blanks and a double, which is a pretty terrible roll, because then it just gets canceled by the evade. So in terms of first player, you're only rolling red die compared to the second player who can add in any combination of 2 die that he wants. A lot of people typically don't take this objective because it's still giving a benefit to first player. Just because he's rolling red die doesn't mean he can't roll big on that attack. I mean, you can roll big too, but it's still providing some benefit. And also at the same time, so how does the end of game with this works? And again, it's the first attack you make with your ship, okay? You can't choose when to do this ability. It's your first attack, period, that you have to add this in. All right, and there definitely are some cases where I've had players make their first attack and then proceeded on to the second attack and been like, oops, I forgot to add this in. Can I, and instead of backtracking back to the first attack, I just let them have it at the current attack they remember on. But under the rules, technically, if they forget to do it, it's considered a missed opportunity. You don't have to let them have it in any follow-on attacks. They missed that opportunity. That's their fault. That's not your fault. You don't need to remind your opponent about what he's supposed to be doing. Now, again, it still all comes back to what kind of a game is it? Is it a casual game? Is it a brand new player learning? Let them have the extra dice. You're there to learn. If this was a tournament, say at Worlds, that's a decision you're going to have to make for yourself on if you would give them that opportunity or not. But anyone who has missed that opportunity and is at Worlds and they know that they missed it, they're only asking because they hope that you're going to be a nice person and that you'll say yes, and that they should understand that if you say no, they shouldn't get upset about it. Okay, I mean, that's for the most part, and that's 99% of players. They understand they missed that opportunity, but again, there's some players like, oh, just because I missed it, you should still let me have it. It's like, well, no, technically the rules say I don't have to give it to you if I don't want to. But again, all comes back to your personal play style. All right, let's jump back into this objective. I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. So now, how has scoring worked with this card? So scoring at the end of the game, if a ship has a damage card on their ship, it doesn't matter how they got it. It doesn't matter if they ran into another ship, if they were blasted by a ship, if a squadron shot them, if they ran over an obstacle and they somehow got damage cards. It is if you have a damage card, period, on your ship, and clarified by the FAQ, your ship, half of its cost is counted as being scored as MOV for the opposite player. So who is this objective really good for? It's fantastic for Rebels, because Rebels have a ton of cheap ships. All they have to do is get 1 damage in on your Star Destroyer. Of course, it's always got a bunch of upgrades on it. So immediately they're scoring, 60, 70, 80 points sometimes off your ISD. 70 points is typically about as high as you can go. So all you have to do is just get one damage card into your ship and then fly away. And even if you got 1 damage card in on a hammerhead, okay, so congratulations, you got 20 points and they're scoring 70 points off of you. So unless you're running a fleet that is, even if your ships are getting damage cards on them, you're not giving your opponent a lot of points and you're able to capitalize on it. I mean, as a player who flies large ships, not the objective you want to take. As a player who flies a lot of large ships, essentially you get more value for having more small ships that can utilize all the extra attack die. And again, even if you only just get 1 damage into something, you're still scoring big. At the same time, if they only get 1 damage card into your ship and don't kill you, they're not hardly getting anything in return for it. Especially when it comes to freaking hammerheads and corvettes. You score practically nothing off them. They're just so cheap and efficient compared to Imperial ships where typically you have to equip with a few upgrades. So that's opening salvo. Like I said, pretty straightforward. Just to do a quick recap, each ship gets an objective token on the very first attack that they make, regardless on what other ship it's against. They have to use their die. And then any ship at the end of the game, if they have 1 damage card on them, including upgrade cards, is scored as half points. So that's opening salvo. There is no other crazy interactions or crazy things going on other than what I mentioned with, again, if Radis has ships in hyperspace, obviously they can't get the objective tokens. But that's it. That's all we got. But of course, if you feel like anything's in error or if I got anything wrong, please be sure to comment. Let me know about it. I'll be sure to answer it or address it. Appreciate you guys watching my videos, and I'll catch you guys next time.